Justin Williams here with another episode of Dirt Time Adventures, and today we're going to start off with unwinding some paracord. Bailey, stay. Every time I get a new 100 yards of it or bundle of it, it seems like it's always tangled up. So we're gonna have to secure Bailey. She's I don't know what it's going on, if it's the winter time or what. She did great all summer long, and then this winter she has just gone rampant with running off on me. And I just think it's important that when you're out in the woods that you're a good steward of the property and your own animals. And so I hate to do it. I'll keep her off whenever I'm able to spend time with her and work around camp. But when I'm shooting videos and stuff, I'm just going to have to tie her up. So, and today, Bailey, come. Today, I'm actually going to be shooting Block 6, Part 1 of the Pathfinder system. And it's going to cover making a primitive spear. And also going to be looking at making some tools over the next week and shooting some video of that. So I'm looking forward to all those videos. They should be good. But today we're going to focus on the good old-fashioned spear. And I'm going to make a multi-purpose spear. I really don't like the idea of just having a single purpose item. So we're going to make a multi-purpose item today with this, and so really looking forward to doing this. The kiddos were going to come out today and help shoot this video with me, but they're just a little under the weather, and it's still kind of chilly and pretty windy today. So alright, let's see how she works. There you go. I know it. Don't look at me that way. Don't look at me that way. It's your fault. You keep running off on me. And so what you're looking for in a spear is something primarily that is taller than you are. That way, whether you have points at one end or both ends, you're not going to gouge yourself in the eye. And so what this is going to serve for me is primarily 3 different tasks, and it could be up to 4. So the first task that this is going to serve for me is a walking stick. It's going to help provide stability in my walking, whether I'm hiking or whether there's snow on the ground and I'm trekking through snow. That's going to be my first priority with this. The second priority will be a single-tipped spear, which will serve for defense and for hunting. And so I can use that single-tipped spear and fire harden it and use it for a couple different things. The other purpose, number 3, is going to be to make a gig. And so on this fatter end, I'm going to split it and make a gig to gig frogs and fish and other different types of animals. And then with the thinner end, because most trees don't grow completely straight, you can try to find some positions in between the trunk and the top and find you a good solid in-between piece, but that's not always the case. So take your thinner end and make that your pointed end. And so I'll have a gig, a spear, a walking stick, and if you want to get really creative, you can take an awl and put a hole through one end and put you a noose on there. And so you got all kinds of different purposes for the spear. And so once again, for me, I'm going to go with about 7 feet tall because I'm about 6 feet. If you're in the 4 feet range, you know you can get by with 5 foot. I go for about a foot taller than you are. And as far as thickness, you know, a lot of that's going to depend on the weight that you're willing to carry, the strength that you're looking for in a spear. And remember, hardwoods are going to be stronger than softwoods. You can do this with bamboo, but you're going to have a lot more longevity with a hardwood or something like a hickory or an ash. Look at that, she's pouting. So you can either choose to remove all the bark. It's really up to you what you want to do. And just simply take your knife and treat it like a draw knife. And simply begin to remove those layers. And just begin shaping this into a point now. Got this knot here I'm going to have to work around. The steeper you make your point on this, the less strength you're going to have in your tip. So you want it pointed, but you don't want it so pointed that the tip becomes brittle. And you're wanting that point at the center of it, at the very end, to be in line with the shaft. So you just got to kind of work with it. That knot right there is going to continue to cause me problems. And if you get something like that and it's just too much to deal with, just chop it off. You know, I think I made mine a foot longer for a reason. And you'll see it begin to start to take shape if you just stick with it. And you don't want just a sharp taper, because then you're making it brittle again. You want to elongate it, work on the tip a little bit, come back here to the back and start getting it a nice solid taper all the way down it. You know, I think it's so important that no matter what you're doing, you take pride in your work. And something as simple as a spear, it's real tempting to just want to halfway do it and get by and throw something together that you think is going to work, instead of investing the time and energy to do it right the first time. And so take pride in your work, whether it's something as simple as a spear, a rabbit stick, a bow drill kit, or even your own primitive bow. Take pride in it, you know. Well, that, my friends, is a sharp spear. So that will just need to be fire hardened, and that side will be good to go. Moving on to the gig side, we want the side that we're going to baton to be as flat as possible. So I'm going to do a leg vise and chop it off level. I'm going to go up a little bit higher than the end, because the end's been in the ground, sitting on the ground, so it's soaking up moisture. Go up a little bit higher. Gives us a nice solid edge to work with. We should be able to baton that nicely. Well, I need a new baton to finish working on the spear, and I ended up going through my batons. I end up throwing them in the fire, or I'll set them down somewhere and I lose them. And so what I decided to do, since I'm already out here working on projects, is to go ahead and build a rabbit stick. And I'm going to tie this in with my spear as well. And the rabbit stick is something that you use to hunt, but it also can be used for a baton, and it can also be used for a digging stick. And so with the rabbit stick, you want it somewhat heavy. It's going to be a heavier hardwood. That way when you whack it, whack a rabbit or something, an animal, game with it, a bird, it's going to have enough force and velocity to to kill that animal. And so found this nice piece of wood. I have, like I said, I got a lot to work on as far as learning my barks and my trees, but I know it's a heavy hardwood, and it's got a lot of characteristics that I was looking for in a rabbit stick. It's a little bit thinner on this side that I can get my hand all the way around it, and it's got a slight curvature to it, which some people will say that helps like a boomerang, adding some aerodynamics. Some people say to go with a straight stick. Either way, the key is to get it as aerodynamic as possible. And so you'll remove all the bark, and this end here is so much heavier, and you're wanting a distance from armpit to the palm of your hand. Distance, you should be able to cup your palm around it. So I'm going to make me a baton real quick and get back to the spear, and then we'll clean this up and have a rabbit stick too. Because it's pointed on one end already, all you got to do is shove that end into the ground, and you have a solid bracing point on that one end. And you can just come around, put some pressure on it if you need to. Find the center. And you want to try to split it as center as possible. Go down a little bit farther. And, you know, I'm thinking 6 inches on that. Maybe a little bit farther, probably a hang 10, 9 inches maybe. Because you're going to shove sticks down in here to get your spread. Then you're going to use like a whipping, lashing technique down here. So we'll go there. It's about mid thumb of hang 10. Your center mark again. And it ain't got to be perfect. All right, so got that split there. We can go ahead and clean up the end of it, find some sticks to shove down in there, and we'll begin sharpening the points. So what I'm doing here with this is I'm going down to where the baton cracks end, and I'm starting a kind of a whipping action here, a lashing. And I took a bite of one end and put a loop up here, and then just started wrapping that loop as tight as possible, and going to do kind of like a restrictor lashing, because I'll shove my tag end in through this hole, this loop, and then I'll come down here, grab the loose end, and pull it tight and finish it off with a couple square knots. But before I finish it completely off, I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna stay tight all the way up and down it, and then I'm gonna go over and under my pegs. And this number 36 bank line works great for this. You can use a number 18. Number 12 you could probably get by with, but I like a little bit thicker cordage for something like this. And you could also use paracord, will work great too. So once you get your whipping all the way up to the top, now you're going to start the over-under process. So that one meets the bottom, so we're going to go ahead and come on around. Now we've come to a stopper where we can't go under it, so now we're going to go over and under. And so we'll probably go ahead and go under that one more time. You don't want to cinch that down on top of that, but we'll go over and under here now. Do it 3 or 4 times. Okay. Go ahead and leave your last tag in a little bit longer because you're going to want to do some square knots with it. I probably should have left this one a little bit longer. Should be able to get at least one square knot in it. Run your tag in through the loop, and now you're still tight. And we're going to get extra string too, because when we pull this loop through right here, we're going to get it to come tight. And so that restrictor loop pulls that down and gives you, it'll pull it into the whipping, giving you a good solid secure there. Now you got two ends that you can begin to tie off square knots. And that right there will keep it from splitting the rest of the way out on you. Now all I got to do is make these pointed, get the rest of the bark off, and she'll be good to fire harden, and we'll be done. One of the great things about having to sharpen a gig is you get real good at using your left hand. And too often we don't practice with our left hand with a knife, but with a gig, when you're sharpening it, it's almost almost mandatory that you use your left hand to do one side of the inside of your gig. What? You ready to call it a night? Huh? What? No. Hey, that's enough. Alright, well, that pretty much wraps up the primitive spear. Came out real nicely and feels pretty balanced. Like I said, it's going to be a little heavy on one end, but really stoked with how it turned out, guys. Got the spear tip. Like I said, it's got a little bit of mud on it from shoving it in the ground. Nice and sharp end. Debarked the whole thing. Got the gig on the other end with the lashing there. And there's some fibers in there, but they'll all burn out whenever I fire harden it. So definitely real happy with it. So this is Justin, Dirt Time Adventures, guys. This is block 6, part 1. I'll probably fire harden it tomorrow or the next day when I get out here and shoot the part 2 of block 6, where I'll be covering some camp tools. Probably going to have a fire ember bowl. I'm going to have some tongs. Going to try to do a spatula and a spoon. And fire harden the tip on this bad boy. If I don't get it on video, what you're pretty much trying to do is stick it in the fire and pull it out. When it starts smoking, you don't want it to burn, okay? You just want it to blacken. And you just stick it in, pull it out, let it cool down, stick it in, and you're fire hardening it. And then do the same thing on your gig end, guys. So, like I said, I'm really impressed with this. It'll make a great walking stick, make a great spear. If I had the single jab for defense, and good old-fashioned gig. And I like the fact that this end is heavier too, because when I'm gigging for frogs, I can be back here and have a real heavy end, and it's kind of got an arch to it, and bam, you know, get as close as you can to the fish. So thanks again. I know it's another little long video, but I want to go into as much detail as possible so that you guys can get the full effects of what you're trying to accomplish. So remember, guys, keep it practical, primitive, and prepared.